أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفينا بالقاسم محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لكم دينكم ولي دين. Brothers and sisters watching this program, Assalamu alaikum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God Almighty, who created the heavens and the earth, the moon and the skies, the mountains and the rivers and oceans, made it clear that I have made it for all to enjoy this beautiful planet, this beautiful earth, and let everyone of whatever faith, whatever religion, whatever beliefs they are in, that they respect each other for their faith, for their beliefs, for their culture, and for their way of life. To discuss this issue in a global way, in this modern day and age, I am very fortunate and lucky in many ways to have three guests of mine today who are of international fame and repute, scholars in their own rights, who have worked hard not only for the issues of equality, but the justice for men and women, for peace and harmony and understanding amongst all people on this earth. Let me introduce to you. With me over here is Dr. Professor Kathy Matsui, who is the president of IALRW, which stands for Liberal Religious Women's Association or body. Dr. Matsui is a professor of science in the University of Tokyo, Japan, and very grateful to have also with me a renowned scholar, pastor, and an advocate of love and harmony, coming from nowhere else but one of the most beautiful parts of the world, with Reverend Suter will say is a country called Switzerland, a beautiful nation of beautiful people, and where she has worked very hard as a pastor, preaching equality and humanity amongst all human beings. But let me say to you, no less in personality-wise, in greatness, in her own right of work, in the field of human understanding and harmony, is Mrs. Akiko Mori, who is also from Kawasaki in Japan, is a board member of IALRO, and we are lucky, so lucky and fortunate to have some very learned, hard-working in their own rights, advocates of love and peace, which is part of all religion on this world. Ladies, let me introduce myself to you. I am Dr. Talib Warsi. I too come from a beautiful country, right? And of course, it is India. Ladies, in India is a great place, ball of various cultures thriving together, like a vase with lots of different flowers making a bouquet. One of the oldest religions known to us, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, all originated in India. In fact, the tree where Lord Buddha is supposed to be sitting to meditate, where you see most of his statues like that, is actually not too far from where I come in India. So, and the great tree under which shadow he meditated and gave his thoughts to the greatness of God Almighty, that tree still survives in India and it is respected. And Reverend Suther, great people from Europe, especially the what you call the Catholic institutions and others, came in not only to talk about the gospel, but also to work in the fields amongst the poor and the needy in India. The sisters or the various denominations from Switzerland established quite a large number of what you call teaching institutions, schools, especially for deprived people in the villages and the hinterland, and some very beautiful colleges and great learning institutions. In fact, two of my sisters went to a school run and administered by the nuns from Switzerland. So, coming from that great country of mine, which I say is a ball of various cultures put together, right? We today sit down in this studio, and before coming to this studio, dear ladies, I was reading the newspaper. Then I watched the television. And all I could read and see in the headlines were the Prime Minister of Britain, the President of America, the views of the Russian leaders and the various nations of the world, all talking about shooting, killing, war and peace. And I thought, in this advanced, beautiful time where technology, especially when we see the great development of technology which has taken place in Japan, and when we see the beautiful work of art even today, right? A good timekeeping can only be done, I suppose, with a Swiss watch, right? And we run our lives like that. But we don't see peace. We don't find love. We don't find the gospel of harmony amongst people. Ladies, let me ask you one by one. If you had a message to give to the world, coming all the way from Japan, right? After reading today's paper and headlines, what is the message you would bring to the people of England or people watching this program from the great country called Japan?
Thank you very much. My thoughts are with you also. It is very painful to see this happening in the world right now. After all, in history, we have gone through this same pain over and over again. And I think I have two messages to give. One is, as the president of IALRW, which is a Interfaith International Association of Liberal Religious Women, we feel it is significant for us to work in our local areas and also network throughout the world. It's a gathering of like-minded people who really want to work for peace, and we think that it is very important for us to have this network and have dialogue and to work together towards peace. And the second message is, how do we work towards that peace? As a peace educator, I feel that it is very important to educate from children to adults that we have a choice. And the choice, one of the choices to resolve conflict is to do it non-violently and through dialogue.
Super,
yes, and in order to do that, it requires skills. So I feel that it is my life work to be an educator, to help people know that they have a choice of not using violence, and that they have a choice because war is sort of man-made crisis. So it is with the hands of man that we can stop this as well, as written in the preamble of the UNESCO Charter. Yes, so that's what I truly believe in, and that is what I do in Japan. And I also do peace education in other parts of the world as well.
Brothers and sisters watching this program, it is a great fortunate moment for me to be sitting with people, with ladies who have come far, far away to this place to bring you the message of love and peace. Our sister here, Dr. Professor Matsui, says that war is a man-made crisis. It's a God, Allah, did not tell us towards taking arms against each other, but embracing each other with love. And no other country in the world stands out more prominently than Switzerland, which has, as a country, as a nation, shied away from using lethal force and weapons as much as possible, and the people from there have worked not with weapons but with books, with the books of knowledge, with the books of peace, with the books of love. And Reverend Suita here will tell you, and I will ask her if you can, to say that when Christ, Jesus Christ, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, he came, he did not come for the people just around that little village where he was born. His message was for the whole mankind. And from the hills and the mountains of Switzerland, right, there should be one message. Message is, give up your guns, give up your arms, take the gospel, take these hymns and the songs of peace, and let the valleys and the mountains ring out with that love and message of peace. And if I was to ask you, Sister Suita, what messages do you bring to the conference here in England and to the people at large from your great country?
Thank you very much for inviting us to have an opportunity to talk about our ideas and hopes for peace in the world. In fact, I come from a country which has a long tradition of not waging war since the 16th century, because at that time we were waging war against ourselves. We had soldiers who went to Italy to fight and being paid for that. And when we realized we are killing our own people, we decided not to wage war anymore. And I think this is one of the steps which should be taken, so that you don't go outside and wage war, but you just, if you are attacked, eventually, that is a decision we have taken, you defend yourselves, not more than that. And that the money you spend for warfaring weapons, you use it for the welfare in your own state and outside where people need it. I think this is a very important point. I would even go further, just to think, why is it that people want to make war? I think they think it is a part of the culture. It leads to a better culture if they have more territory or whatever, and this is obsolete. I think it's from the past. We can't do anymore if we are merging together in one world and having networking So we realize we are all neighbors, and as neighbors we have to respect and recognize we are different, but every position, every opinion, or most of the opinions have a right, make sense, so we have to try to understand each other and live together.
The message of understanding and trying to make room in our hearts and in our lives for others to be accommodated is the message our great Reverend Suter has brought to all of us from Switzerland. Open your hearts, open your minds. There's a lot of space. There is plenty to share. And with that message, even Japan is rich, so rich in culture. Whether it is Shintoism, whether it is Buddhism, whether it is any ism, right? These ladies are from Japan, and they may be of different faiths, but these religious ladies are working together to have an interfaith dialogue with anybody from any part of the world, because we may not be brothers and sisters by our language, our religion, but at least we are brothers and sisters in humanity. And I would very much appreciate from Mrs. Akiko Mori to say a few words from what message you have for us. You can say it slowly. English is a language which has been adopted by the whole world. Some, like Brother Evans, speaks very fast. Some, like us, we speak slowly. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this program. And what I want to say is almost same to Dr. Kathy Matsui. But I believe as human beings, people in various faiths can make friends and can cooperate each other. So, and but in the under the idea of this, you see, can I talk about the nuclear power plants? Yes. You see, in Japan, we suffered 3 atomic radiation 3 times. You know,
that's right.
During the end of the World War II, twice, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and you see in Fukushima.
Okay.
Yes. When
and the recent
yes, when we had a very big
tsunami.
earthquake. Yes, tsunami. March 11th. Yes. That is not a conflict or war by a natural disaster. So we should know the nuclear power, not even weapons or plants. Nuclear power is never safe anymore. So we should understand all of the people
together.
Yes, people all over the world should know it. So we should stop the development of nuclear power. So I came to
with a message.
Yes, yes, I want to convey this message to.
It's very important. It is the message of the green policy. It is the message of living with natural resources. It is the working with God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us enough energy in the world for us to enjoy and live with. Why play with something dangerous? Right? And disarmament, non-nuclear proliferation, and the doing away with the nuclear power stations, and these which, when used all right, when the disaster strikes, nobody knows the dangers and disasters and the catastrophe of nuclear energy. Nobody knows better than our great guests here from Japan. As Mrs. Mori says, we have tasted it 3 times. No more, no more please. No, do away with the nuclear energy, because you had a knowledge, but you have learned to misuse it and not use it properly. Isn't it? Ladies, in India we had a leader, a great leader, and his name was Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He too said, weapons can cause disasters, do away. And he had to fight to get India independent from this country here, Great Britain. He had a stick in his hand, and we said, we will do it with love, not with bullets. Can I ask you, because all 3 of you are religious women working to bring understanding together, can we do away with gun like Gandhi did and still get peace in this modern world? Is it possible?
Yes, I believe
Wonderful.
it is possible.
Yes.
Yes, and even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, yes, I believe in that. And but there are examples like what Gandhi did for India, of how citizens have achieved peace without using violence in past history, I would say. So I think it is possible if we all work together for it.
And Sister Suter, now is the time in America, they are celebrating the speech of great African American leader Martin Luther King, whose speech of I have a dream became so famous. He did so much for the African American with his march to Washington in a peaceful way, rather than taking arms and guns to Washington. Has the world learned enough lessons from the approach of Martin Luther King to solve problems, very serious problems, no matter how, with love and peace?
Well, I think we always have to start again almost with the beginning, because a new generation is coming, new generation who has to learn about this as well, who does not just inherit it. And there are people who think in a different way, but I myself, I would say, I cannot stop to act and to think in this way. And I give another example which is more recent, which is about 2 years back, 3 years back. Maybe you have heard of Liberia,
Yes.
with the civil war and with all the political problems, and with the governor of Liberia who was really betraying the people. So women took an initiative. They decided in an interfaith dialogue, Christian women with Muslim women, to work together and to protest non-violently, dressed with white t-shirts, and just sit in front of the government palace and so on, and demanding negotiation of
Very
the government with other peoples from other countries. And they succeeded with a lot of time, a lot of energy and networking, but they succeeded and they got the Nobel Prize for it. I mean, the president,
Yes.
the new president,
Yes.
and one of the women who was leading the groups. So at least it was recognized by the world. Of course, it's always a known personal decision whether you do it in a non-violent way or not. That is up to each person, this decision.
If you have been watching and listening, especially to our Reverend Suta has been saying, that don't have to travel in history 150, 100,000 years ago, only a couple of years ago, by interfaith dialogue, by creating love and understanding each other's and respecting each other's faith, beliefs, working for peace, was achieved in a country which was torn with battles and guns and fights, called Liberia in Africa, and they achieved it. And we should carry on working it. And with that great message, Mrs. Mori hasn't, in South Africa, if we look at the great personality, the great leader there, who strived to bring peace, to do away with apartheid system, right? To do away with indignity of human being treated like slaves, right? And now he lies in bed, very ill and sick, yet he is so well respected, not only by the South Africans, but by you, the Japanese, by me, the Indians, by the South Americans, by the Scandinavians, everyone alike. So it isn't just the color or the faith, it is human kindness and love which actually wins more hearts, more minds than the warplanes and the tanks can ever do, isn't it?
その彼についての意見。So
She agreed.
you're asking me
Yes.
the
Do
idea
you
of
agree?
Mr. Mandela?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, because 日本語でもいいですか？
She wants to speak in Japanese, I'll translate.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
私たちも肌の色が白ではなくてもカラーがあるからどこかで何かこう白人から少しリスペクトされてるようなところを感じてましたけど、でも彼のおかげで、そういう有色人種白人という概念を取り払う。でも完全ではないけど、でもはいはい。
We ourselves are colored people. We're not white, and so there are times when we travel abroad that we felt that we were sort of looked down upon. But with the leadership of and the great work of Mandela, it seems that we were able to overcome that. That we, as colored people, are also have the strength to do work as such for the equality of people.
でも人間としてはカラーではなくてやはり知り合った人にはその人間性決して肌の色ではなくどういう人なのかで、やはり好き嫌いが出るんであって肌の色ではないんじゃないかっていうふうに感じるようになりました。
And she feels that it's not the matter of color of the skin, but it's the matter of the human person, herself or himself.
Yes.
It's getting to know the people beyond their color is the importance of getting to know each other and learning to live together.
In the meadows, in the valleys, and the mountains of Switzerland, where the cows and the sheep with their bells on, right, sound so beautiful to the ears, but that is God's gift to us, all these animals and birds and all of peace. But the most beautiful creation of God, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are we, the human beings, right? And we have made boundaries. This is the boundary of Switzerland, this is the boundary of Italy, this is the boundary of Japan, this is the boundary of Korea, this is the boundary of China or India. We have created boundaries, but your work amongst the ladies, of women with religious beliefs, working to create dialogue